It was colder than anything he'd ever experienced. The howling wind outside the research pod rattled its reinforced windows like a creature trying to get in. Nathan pressed his palm against the frosty glass, watching the storm roll across the icy plains of this godforsaken planet. It had been 3 weeks since the emergency evacuation signal. 3 weeks since command stopped answering. 3 weeks of silence, isolation, and rationed heat. He turned away from the window, pulling the thermal blanket tighter around his shoulders. His breath came out in puffs of mist, and the tiny power core in the pod blinked red again, battery dying, system struggling. One more night. Maybe 2 if he didn't move much. Then came the knock. Not a crash. Not a roar. A knock. Like someone tapping politely, as if asking for permission to enter. Nathan froze. He wasn't hallucinating, was he? He hadn't seen another human in weeks. The outside temperatures were lethal. Nothing should be out there. Another knock. This time softer. Slower. His heart pounding, Nathan reached for the emergency hatch lever. He paused. His training screamed at him. Never open the outer door without full environmental scan. But this wasn't protocol anymore. This was survival. He opened it. The cold roared in. A wave of freezing wind hit his face, and then a figure. She stumbled in, barefoot, barely dressed, her glowing skin faintly lighting the dim interior. White hair stuck to her face, her arms wrapped tightly around her torso, shivering uncontrollably. She didn't speak. She didn't need to. Nathan slammed the hatch closed, locking out the storm. She looked like a girl, maybe early 20s if he had to guess, but she was clearly not human. Her skin shimmered with bioluminescent orange lines that pulsed with her heartbeat. Her eyes were too large, too reflective. But the fear on her face. That was familiar. She was freezing to death. "You can't stay like that," he said, voice hoarse from disuse. She didn't answer, just stared at him with wide, panicked eyes. She was trembling so violently it looked painful. He cursed under his breath and grabbed the only heat source he had left, his sleeping bag. It was specially designed for deep planetary expeditions, self-heated and insulated against the most brutal cold. Without it, he wouldn't last the night. "Here," he said, unzipping it and holding it open. "Get in. It's the only warm place." She hesitated. Her feet were already turning a shade of blue-purple. Her fingers twitched as if trying to decide between survival and pride. Then, finally, she moved. She slid into the sleeping bag, tense as a board, barely breathing. Nathan followed, carefully, making sure not to touch her more than necessary. It was cramped. Too cramped for 2 bodies. But it was warm. Gloriously warm. For a few minutes, they sat in silence, listening to the storm scream outside and the soft hum of the sleeping bag's heater. He glanced at her. Her glowing skin had stopped flickering. Her breathing slowed. But she still wouldn't meet his eyes. I won't hurt you," he said quietly. "I don't even know who you are. Or what you are. But I'm not going to throw you back out there." Still nothing. Then a whisper. A voice so soft it was almost imagined. "I thought you would." He blinked. Her words were fluent. Perfect English. No accent. "You speak my language?" She nodded. "I studied you." The phrasing made his blood run cold. Studied, asterisk. Before he could ask anything more, she looked up at him. Her expression was no longer frightened. It was wary. Calculated. "You helped me." "Why?" He stared at her for a long moment. "Because you were dying. That's what we do. Your people kill what they fear." "Maybe," he admitted. "But some of us help what we don't understand." Her glowing lines brightened faintly. They stayed like that, nestled awkwardly together, separated by inches but bonded by necessity. Nathan didn't sleep. Not really. He kept one eye open, half expecting her to turn violent or vanish like a dream. But she stayed. And when morning came, if it could be called morning on this planet, she hadn't moved away. In fact, she had done something else. She had curled into him, just slightly, like someone who'd finally found safety in the arms of a stranger. Nathan didn't move. Didn't speak. Because whatever happened next, he knew nothing would ever be the same. Nathan woke to silence. Not the peaceful kind, but the heavy, breath-held kind that meant something had changed. The sleeping bag was still warm. Her body was still there, a subtle glow pulsing under the surface of her skin. But her eyes were open now, watching him. "You're awake," he murmured. She nodded slowly. "You didn't harm me in the night." "Didn't plan to." She studied him again, like she was weighing possibilities. He saw it in her eyes, not fear this time, but calculation. Curiosity. Something was shifting. "Your name?" she asked. "Nathan." "You." She hesitated. "Saray." The name didn't sound human, but it didn't sound alien either. It was somewhere in between. Like her. "Saray," he repeated softly, trying it out. "What were you doing out there? No one can survive in that cold." She looked down, glowing fingers twitching. "I ran." "From what?" Her jaw tensed. "From them." He sat up, pulling the blanket tighter. "Them? Who's them?" "My kind." Nathan blinked. He hadn't expected that. "They don't know I'm gone yet," she added quickly. "But they will. And if they find me here." Her voice trailed off. "You're in danger." "We're in danger," she corrected. "They don't take betrayal lightly." Nathan rubbed his face. This was getting worse by the second. "You mind telling me why you ran?" She turned away, looking at the frost-covered window. Outside, the storm had eased, but the skies were still the color of steel. Her voice dropped low. "Because I learned too much. Because I started to care. About your kind." So they were planning something. A long silence. "Yes." He felt a chill that had nothing to do with the cold. "What kind of something?" She looked him in the eye now. And what he saw there was terrifying. Infiltration. Colonization. "We're the first wave, Nathan. Observation units. We study. Blend in. Report. Then they arrive." His mouth went dry. "So you were a spy." "I was. But I stopped. I couldn't go through with it." He swallowed hard. Part of him wanted to push her out. Call her a liar. But deep down, he believed her. And that scared him even more. "How long until they come looking?" "Soon," she whispered. "They can sense energy shifts. They'll detect this pod if we use too much power." Nathan stared at the dim lights overhead. The heater. The sleeping bag. All of it drawing from the barely functioning core. "Then we need a plan." Saray glanced at him. "You want to help me? Even after knowing what I am?" He didn't hesitate. "You helped me survive this long just by being honest. That's more than I can say for most humans." That made her smile. Just a flicker. But it was the first time he'd seen her expression soften. She stood slowly, still cautious, arms wrapped across her chest. Nathan turned away and handed her the spare jumpsuit from the locker. It was too big for her, but it was something. As she dressed, he moved to the pod's console. Most systems were still offline, but he could rig the external sensors manually. If someone came within a few hundred meters, they'd know. Saray watched him work. "You're clever." "I'm still here, aren't I?" She nodded. "That's rare. Most humans I met died early in the experiment." "Charming," he muttered. "But you're different. That's why I chose this pod. I watched you." He paused. "So you were planning to come here?" "Not at first. But after I ran, I had nowhere else to go. And I knew you wouldn't kill me." "You were really that sure?" "I was," she said. "Because the first time I saw you, you buried your crewmate. The others left theirs to freeze." Nathan said nothing. The memory hit hard. Juno had died from exposure during a power outage. He'd dug a grave with his bare hands while the wind threatened to rip the skin off his bones. It hadn't been about ritual. It had been about respect. "That's when I started to believe," she said. "Maybe your kind wasn't just savage." He looked at her now. Really looked. Her skin still glowed faintly, but it wasn't harsh anymore. It was gentle. Like she'd dimmed it on purpose. "We need to move," he said. "The longer we stay here, the more likely they find us." "Where would we even go?" He tapped the map screen. There's a cave system 20 clicks east. With geothermal vents. Might be warm enough to mask our heat signature. That's a long way to walk. I know. But we'll make it. Together. She held his gaze. Together, then. They packed what little they had. Rations. The sleeping bag. Portable tools. No weapons. If they were found, weapons wouldn't help. As they stepped out into the cold, the wind biting but manageable, Nathan glanced back one last time at the pod. He didn't know if they'd survive what was coming. But as Saray stepped beside him, matching his stride, he realized something strange. For the first time in weeks, he didn't feel alone. And that might be what scared him most of all. The cold gnawed at them with every step. Even with insulated boots and the sleeping bag draped over their shoulders like a makeshift cloak, the journey across the frozen plains was brutal. Nathan kept his eyes fixed on the horizon, guiding them with a cracked compass and the faint readouts from his scanner, while Saray walked beside him in silence. Every few hours, they took short breaks behind ice boulders, shielding themselves from the wind. Nathan would press a heating patch to her hands, watching as her fingers slowly regained warmth and glow. She never complained. Not once. But he could see the toll it was taking on her. By the second night, they found the entrance to the caves, jagged black rock forming a crescent mouth opening into the earth. Inside, the temperature was immediately warmer. The geothermal vents were doing their job. Nathan lit a small plasma torch, casting flickering shadows on the damp walls. The cave extended deep, with pockets of steam rising from cracks. They made camp in one of the hollows, tucked away from the entrance. That night, Saray finally spoke. I wasn't created for this. He looked up from the fire he'd coaxed to life. For what? For connection. For feeling. I was engineered to observe. Blend. Report. Not to care. Not to trust. Nathan poked at the fire with a metal rod. But you did. She nodded. Something inside me changed. It began when I saw your people cry, mourn, help each other even when it meant dying. It made no logical sense. But it made me feel something I wasn't programmed to. He didn't respond. Not because he didn't have words, but because he said enough. Is that why you left them? He finally asked. Yes. And now, they will erase me. If they catch me, they'll burn every part of who I became. He reached out, slowly, resting a hand on hers. Then we don't let them catch you. She turned her hand to hold his. Her skin was warmer now. Less alien. For the next few days, they made the caves their home. Nathan used his tools to rig a crude barrier at the entrance and a thermal reflector to conceal heat. Saray mapped the vents, identifying safe areas to sleep, to eat, to hide. They talked more now. About Earth. About her world. About how different, and how similar, they really were. Why do humans name stars after stories? She asked one night, lying on the stone beside him, staring at the glowing scanner display of the sky above. Because we need meaning, he answered. We need to believe there's something out there bigger than us. On my planet, we don't name stars. We name victories. Maybe that's why your kind keeps looking for wars. She laughed softly. Maybe. The laughter didn't last. 3 nights later, the sensor lit up. Motion. 800 meters out. Fast. Nathan swore under his breath. Saray was already on her feet. Scouts, she said. They've found the energy trail. Can we run? Not in time. They move faster than we can. And they won't talk. They'll kill you and drag me back. Nathan grabbed his pack. Then we fight. You'll die. Then I die on my feet. She looked at him with a strange intensity, her glowing skin pulsing harder. Then she stepped closer. No. You live. Saray. I can mask you. I can give them something to follow. I have tech in my body they haven't seen yet. I can set it to emit false trails. But you have to leave now. Take the southern tunnel. It leads to the far cliffs. There's a supply station there abandoned, but it has a beacon. You might get a signal out. Nathan grabbed her shoulders. You are not staying behind. You gave me a choice, Nathan. When you opened that door, you gave me something I never had. Let me give it back. He shook his head. There has to be another way. She smiled. And this time, it wasn't sad. It was grateful. Go. While I can still make it count. Nathan's heart was in his throat. But he knew she was right. He turned, picked up the pack, and forced himself down the tunnel. Every step felt like betrayal. Halfway down, he stopped and looked back. She was already gone. And behind him, the cave began to echo with the approaching storm of footsteps. He ran. For hours he ran through the twisting tunnels, through steam and darkness, until finally, he saw it, a broken metal tower jutting from the edge of a snowy cliff. The supply station. He climbed inside, fingers frozen, chest heaving, and activated the old beacon. It sputtered, blinked, then lit up blue. Signal sent. But he didn't celebrate. Because all he could think about was whether Saray was still alive. The rescue ship arrived 4 days later. Nathan was half frozen, dehydrated, and barely conscious when they pulled him from the ruins of the supply station. He kept drifting in and out of awareness during the flight, clutching the beacon module like it was sacred. When he finally awoke in the med bay of the orbiting cruiser, the first word out of his mouth was her name. Saray. The medic blinked. I don't know who that is, sir. We found no one else. Nathan tried to sit up, panic overtaking his senses. She stayed behind the cave. She was trying to save me. You have to go back. You have to look. They didn't. Or if they did, no one told him the results. He spent the next 2 weeks recovering in silence, staring out of the porthole at the endless stars. There was no debrief. No interrogation. Maybe they already knew what had happened down there. Maybe they didn't want the truth. But Nathan couldn't forget. Not the cold. Not the fear. And not the girl with glowing skin who had shared his sleeping bag and, for a brief moment, made him believe in something more. He requested reassignment. Not to another planet. To Earth. Specifically, to the Xenodiplomatic Division, the small team tasked with first contact scenarios and interspecies negotiations. They tried to dissuade him. Said he wasn't qualified. Said he had trauma. He didn't argue. He just told them one thing. We need to be better when they come. We need to be more like who she thought we could be. They gave him the position. Years passed. Nathan became known for his calm, his patience, and his unwavering belief that communication could always come before violence. He trained new recruits, taught them what compassion looked like in the face of the unknown. He never saw Saray again. But rumors started to swirl among certain interstellar pilots. Rumors of a glowing figure seen walking across the surface of a moon with no breathable air. A survivor. A ghost. A legend. Nathan didn't chase the rumors. Because in his heart, he knew. She had lived. She had run. Survived. Hidden. And maybe, just maybe, she was still out there, watching humanity from a distance, waiting to see what they would become. One night, years later, while alone in a quiet observatory on the Pacific coast, he looked up at the stars and whispered, "Thank you." A faint pulse blinked across the scanner. Just a flicker. Gone in seconds. But it was enough. The moral ***. Sometimes the most powerful revolutions start not with armies, but with warmth. With a shared space. With an act of kindness between enemies. Saray taught Nathan, and through him, the rest of humanity, that trust isn't built through dominance. It's built in the cold. When everything else is lost. And someone chooses to offer you a place beside them. Even if it's just a sleeping bag. Even if it's just one night. Because in that moment, the universe can change.